Hey everybody, good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips Friday edition with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands Quinty, Disembodied Beard John, and of course the spirit of Justin hovering in the ether. Somewhere there's a dog flopped on the floor, but she doesn't want to say hi today. Hello everybody, coffee and pizza. Two things that I can't have anymore. Well, I have coffee every once in a while, but I pay for it. Okay. For last night's Reaper Live, you mean, Inara? Hello, green users. How's it going? Guys, milestone. Last night at CrossFit was the first CrossFit that I kept up with everybody and did all of the things for the warm-up, and the workout didn't kill me. It was insane. It was insane. Yeah, total flop day, total. Absolutely. So I was excited because last night's CrossFit, like, I was on it. I could do all the things, well, except sit-ups because I can't do those. Those are just out. But I did everything else, and I wasn't the worst or the slowest. Ha ha! Given I'm doing modified stuff, right? So, yeah, right. But it was good. It was like, I was really happy. Like, normally, all this time I've been very, very lagging behind, right? But I was super happy. So, yeah, Crowley. U.S. citizen for Mrs. Hamster. Nice. Round of applause. Round of applause. Yes, it's a good day. So now, you know what? I'm going to open my window for a little while, and it'll irritate my allergies even more, Quindy. Take your pill. Just because it's nice out today. I should have had it open last night. I thought I left it open last night. Usually I leave it open all night so it's nice and cool in here. But yes. Yes, indeed. However, now I'm really determined to, like, figure out what I need to do to, like, lose weight while I do this stuff, so. Because if I'm working this hard, this is a weird motivator, but if I'm working this hard every week, as I do at CrossFit, if I'm not losing weight, I'm doing something wrong here. Alrighty, we're going to do some, I got to do my green. 1 second. Everybody keep congratulating Mrs. Hamster, and I'll get my green stuff. Are you going to come say hi, Kiki? Since you're standing up, Kiki, do you want to come and say hi? You want to come and say hi, Kiki? Do you? Do you want to come up and say hi? Do you? You can do it. It's up to you. It's up to you, Kiki. But you can come up. Yay! There's my girl. Oh, pants are slippery. Yeah, that's part of the problem. As she gets bigger, she just, like, slips off my leg more, and then she's just like, I'm a beast. Just a brief Kiki sighting. Yeah, good girl, Keeks. Good girl. Yeah, Scritches. Good girl. That's my Keekers. That's my Keekers. Hi, Keekers. Hi, please don't eat me. Please don't eat me. I am not edible by tiny puppies, nor monster puppies, even if they are monsters. No, you can't eat my ring either. That's a very expensive ring, more expensive than you even, except although you've eaten so many bully sticks at this point, you probably are as expensive as my ring. Probably. Woof. Go settle and chew, Missy. You were all nice and settled before, and now you're all riled. This is the problem with inviting you to jump up on my lap. Hi there. Hi, big face. No, you don't get to eat the green stuff. That's toxic. It's toxic, Papa. Toxic is not for Papas. Papa has discovered that she really likes the frozen fruit in my smoothies. And she already was a strawberry predator. And a raspberry predator. If I eat half of one, she wants the other half. But now, I gave her half of a frozen banana last night, and she scored a piece of frozen mango the night before because I was making my smoothies. So she's decided she likes fruit. Now she's all like, when the fruit comes out, she's all like, ah, Papa Dog, can you settle, please? I don't know what you're eating. I don't want to know what you're eating. I hope it's not going to kill you. She's just so bad lately. We were going through the second adolescence, or the first adolescence, or the 15th adolescence. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Pretzel crust pizza. Alrighty, I'm gonna put her on a smaller base. We're going to sculpt bricks. We're gonna try to texture them crumbly like Jason did on this. She does like playing with ice cubes and stuff, Twisted Oma. She just likes fruit, though. I think if I had a regular banana out, she'd be just as like, A lot of dogs like banana, though. Good girl. Alrighty. We want to cover up that slotted base. Although technically, probably we could just put her on it because she has a nice flat base, but I cannot share in the enjoyment of the pizza. Pizza is like the toxic evil to me. I will never be able to have again. But that's okay. Pizza is not really going to fit my weight loss program. It's the one thing about pizza. Well, there's several things about pizza, but let's just take a little bit of this extra flashing off the bottom here. Aw, I didn't notice before that the bottom said for Cathy. That's very, very nice. Jason's such a sweetheart. So, if the base covers up the whole slot up, but it doesn't. So, since it doesn't, I am going to actually put a sticky note down on this. 1 second. Gotta grab a sticky note first. That is the first part of getting a sticky note. And of course you can use tape and things like that. That's fine. I just happen to have a sticky note around here and they're easy to cut. You press until you can see the round of the base through it so you know where to cut. Hey Kiki, are you looking for more things to eat that you shouldn't eat? And use your happy X-Acto knife. Don't have to leave the whole circle. In fact, you probably run out of sticky about here, but Kiki dog, how about you go settle? Baba, Do I have to exile you? I will exile you if I have to. Yeah. Go settle down, please. You know, it's work. Come on, Kiki. Oh boy, she was being good, and then she was not being good. And this has been back and forth all morning, really. There we go. Excellent. So anybody got anything cool planned for the weekend? I'm going to be sitting at home finishing editing on my book. Which is getting very close. I did manage, even with Patreon stuff yesterday, I still managed to edit a chapter and a half. And I'm so close. So close. I'm hitting all of my little editing points that I had written out before. Just satisfying. I keep a list. There. Okay. Good. Running a game. Nice. Yeah, the heat is crazy. I was looking at Texas this morning. I was looking, because I still have Denton as you know, on my phone. So if I swipe, I can get to Denton from Mountain View, and good girl. And yeah, like, it's serious, like over 100 degrees every day for the next 10 days, and like 80 degrees at night, the lowest point at night. Just like the crazy, really. Those are the days where I just did not enjoy it. Another Diablo and decluttering. Sounds good. Yeah, I was going around getting all my altars of Lilith last night, Quindy, because I didn't, and I'm glad that I didn't go and do that on my other character, because now when I hit part 3 of my journey, and I was like, I don't feel like doing more dungeons right now, so instead I'm just running around exploring and getting all my altars of Lilith, which is getting me XP, because I have to kill things as I go. So it's kind of a nice, relaxing way for me to get XP without just doing endless dungeons. So I'm really actually quite happy that I didn't do all my altars of Lilith before. So I'm level 38-ish, I think. I think I'm going to switch to my my endgame build early. I want to try it out, which is the werewolf, the lightning shred, the electrical shred, or yeah, the electrical shred. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Neurotic. David is going to watch the developer stream today and report back to me, because I have a lot to do today. All right, so Cathy is pretty solid, and I've shaved. There's a little bit on her base that I could get rid of here still. Yeah, I don't so much mind, like, I'm not so much focused on leveling when I get past 50, so much as I am just, like, doing stuff. Like, there's so much that I still haven't done. There's so many dungeons I haven't done and stuff like that, and I guess I'm not as motivated either, War Shadow, though I like the journey thing. I like that I'm enjoying the journey type of thing with this particular expansion, and it gives me something to focus on to get things finished. So that makes it a little less, more about completing goals and not just leveling, I guess. Because I'm not trying to do, like, level 100 content. If they fix the leveling so it's not such a grind, then maybe. But right now, I'm certainly not. Even in Path of Exile, usually I just love doing maps. I don't know if you play Poe also, since you like Diablo. But I just love doing maps in Poe. And so I'll just do maps just because I love them. And eventually I'll get up to like level 70, level 75 just from, you know, not even trying. But I'm usually not like a cap out kind of person in these games. I just like to run around and explore and do stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm only on, I'm on chapter 4 of the journey right now. So I still have a long way to go. I've really spread it out. I try not to, I know a lot of people like to level as fast as they can, but I like to take it easy on these games, and I think honestly that it makes it more enjoyable for me, and I tend to stick with it longer that way. But I mean, it's all right. I mean, I've still gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this game so far, and David and I have fun playing together, and I mean, I think it's natural for gamers, honestly, to cycle through games anyway. So, like, if you play Diablo for a month after a season pops out, and then you go play something else for the next 2 months, or you go paint, like in my case, I'm going to switch back to Tyranids probably after Diablo kind of fizzles a little for us. All right, there you got it, 7. But then, you know, I think a lot of us, I mean, speak up gamers, I mean, but my experience with all of my gaming friends and myself has been that it's a cyclic thing. The new game comes out, you play for 4, 6 weeks, 3, 6 weeks, whatever it takes you, right, depending on how much time you put into it. And then you just kind of like turn naturally to either another thing that you've been wanting to play, or in my case, I'm going to go back to hobbying, right? And David tends to do that too. Game, hobby. I got my cosplay, but we're not doing, the cosplay is for the Mouseling because I want to do a big display base for that. Like much larger than this. Cathy, I want to keep her on the bricks. I can't do a big display base for everything because then I'm just going to run out of oomph. Not every model deserves a huge display base. like, I only want to reach for the cosplay or the Sculpey or whatever you're using. I only want to reach for that when I want to do something big, because that's going to be the far more efficient and less expensive way to do a big base. Because green isn't a great sub for that. So yeah. Yeah, and I default back to Overwatch. Like, I just start playing Overwatch again, or I paint. Because in the evenings, once my workout is done, because I walk every night, even if I'm not doing CrossFit, and do my running, it's like, once that's done, it's already 8 or 8:30, and I only have an hour to play or to paint. So for me, it's like, it's not like I have like these hours of stretch in the evening where I can do everything. Once I've cooked dinner, stretched, gone out, done my run, yada yada, I maybe have an hour, maybe an hour and a half if I'm super lucky to do one thing of my own. So yeah, it's not like I have a crap ton of free time lying around waiting for me to pick it up and play video games with it. I have to really kind of fragment out my time. All right, let's get some of this green stuff. This is a really kind of cool, almost fieldstone, like brick base. And I want to try to kind of nail that look with her for the rest of it. So it's a different kind of cobble than I've ever tried to do. But yeah, the cosplay, I used to use Sculpey for big bases. Okay, so Agent Marvel, Sculpey is a baking clay. So you need, cosplay, well, both of them actually, are polymer clays that you must bake. So you sculpt bits and then you bake them, and that hardens and cures them. So it isn't just like an air dry clay. So the advantage of it over stuff like green stuff is that it's relatively cheaper in bulk, and you can do big shapes with it. So here's an old Sculpey base that I did with Super Sculpey, just for fun. And it's super rough, and obviously I can do much better now. But on the other hand, I could also take green stuff in and make this really cool. So I was just like messing around. I did this just as an example. But it's, it's plasticky. I would have to build it out more and put it on a proper plinth or base, or cut away and shape it. But you can do this. I did this super fast. Like, this was maybe 20 minutes of throwing stuff together, and then I baked it, and look, I have a giant base to work with. So if I had a 54 millimeter like Wolfen or Werewolf, and I wanted to put him on this, I could. It's super fast. Yeah, it just seems like, oh, that's too bad, Twisted Oma. Yeah, I mean, but if the heat is too bad, then it's just what it is, right? Presumably you've been to the quilt shop many other times, but I know how it is when you've got a favorite store and it's about to close. Though I've done that too. When there's just been too much going on, and I just haven't been able. I did not have enough blue in here, so I grabbed a little bit more. Yes, pin, glue, putty, yeah. And you put flocking on, and you do other stuff. But yeah, this is what these polymer clays are good for, is if you're sculpting bigger forms, right? And usually organic forms. Obviously, if you're doing something that's more mechanical or inorganic, you're going to use probably styrene and cork, things like that, to build out a base. So polymer clays are just another way that you can build out a bigger base, with not too expensive ingredients. And the nice thing about these clays is that you can sculpt, you can sculpt them just like regular clay and get some texture on there, and, and you, of course, can fit the mini to it. While I just did this one as an example, so it obviously, if I was going to put a mini on it, I'd have to choose a place to put the mini, and I'd have to probably build up more putty to do it. But normally when I did these, I would fit the mini onto it and then press kind of its feet into the clay while it was unbaked, so that I would be able to fit it in perfectly. Just press a little bit. Yeah, oh yeah, I used to use this for bases all the time. Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. I mean, you can do a lot of this stuff, you can print a lot of this stuff with 3D printing, but if you want to actually sculpt your own, that suits you and suits the model perfectly, then, you know, this is why you would use Cosplay or Sculpey. So, and it lasts forever. I mean, this was done years and years and years ago. Years ago. But yeah, I dug that out of my basing thing. I just had it lying around as kind of a fast, I mean, honestly, super fast example. But I like it because it's hard to, like, if I want to do a tree limb or any sort of thing like that, like a fallen log or like that, like I just did that hollowed log. It's hard to find stuff like that is exactly what you want. And when you want it wrapped over a rock or something, and you know, because you can find examples on 3D print, sure, but you can't always find exactly what you want. And if you're not a 3D sculptor, then you got to sculpt your own. So, yes, this is true, Valandar, exactly. One thing I used to do with these also is when I made a display base for a nice display figure, I would create the base and then I would do a cutout so that this base of the model, I wouldn't use the rounded edge, I'd use the straight edge, but that it would socket right into that base in the larger display so that you could have the Mini on a nice display, but you could also just pluck the Mini off for gaming. I did a few of those when I was selling for eBay. All right, let's get some sculpting tools. I'm going to need my knife for this one for sure because these have really sharp, these little, the bricks, the fieldstone type thing. You see how long they are. And they're really narrow, and the cuts between them are very narrow. So I've got a little mold line here that's going to be very hard to take off. So I'll probably just green stuff over it, to be honest. All right, and some of these are lower and some of these are higher, and yeah, it's really, you can do this in 3D pretty easily probably, but it's a little harder here. So let me grab, what am I gonna want? I am not gonna want this tool because it doesn't have a great cutting edge. I'm gonna want one of my spades that has a better cutting edge, I think. This is a pretty good, let's see which of these spades has a better edge. This one for sure has a better edge. So if you look, you can see that that edge is more narrow, and this one has a width to it. That's why I have multiples of these like spade tools, is that they're each a little different. Yeah, Fimo, Sculpey. Now, the thing is, they're all a little bit different. Twisted Oma, like Sculpey has its base version, and then it's got its Super Sculpey, which is the pink one that I used for that base, and I far prefer the Super Sculpey. So like some of these polymers are going to be more rubbery, some of them are going to be bendable, some of them are going to be more, you know, more harder but more brittle. It's just like material, like the plastic material that Reaper uses for like bones, right? It's going to be different depending on the brand. I think Fimo Professional, I don't remember. There's a Fimo brand. There's regular Fimo, and then there's other types of Fimo as well. So it's not a one-size-fits-all on these polymer clays. You kind of want to read and see what they're good at. And I did not get, like Cosplay has a soft, and I did not get the soft. I think I went for the medium. And even that may be a little bit too flexible, but I don't mind a little bit of flexibility. So this is what I got. I got the Cosplay Sculpt. Yeah, medium firm. This will be fine. My hope is that there's fewer fumes. Oh, and there's a CNOT has the thing on the back. They actually have CNOT's troll on the back, actually. He's famous. He is famous. There's a reason that he has a huge Twitch following. But yeah, and they actually have his name on here as a credit. I don't remember where it is, but yeah. So yeah. Let's see here. And I wanted gray because gray, as you can see with the background here, doesn't make my camera explode, and it also shows detail really well. So we'll be using that. Nope, Cosplay. Yeah, I'm sure I mean, who knows if the name is a variant on that, or if it's just like coincidental. Yeah, I used to have a toaster oven for doing it because Sculpey has fumes, but cosplay is supposed to be pretty safe. So that was the other thing I was interested in, is that it didn't seem like I was going to need a separate oven for it. I don't want fumes. There's enough things in the world that are bad for us. I don't need to add more right in my house. So I'm going to start getting this green stuff pressed around the base here. To get these sharp edges, I'm probably going to have to let this green set up a little bit, so I'm not in a terrific hurry. And I'm using a fair amount of water, at least at first. Hey, Big Chimpo. I mean, yeah, most people just get a little toaster oven and do it out on their patio or deck or whatever they've got, or in their garage for the fumes. So it's like not a huge problem as long as you're mindful of it. You just remember that it's a thing. But it seems like cosplay is not, as if it's not as bad for that, or doesn't have that as a factor. I read all their sheets, and it didn't seem like it had any potentially harmful fumes. So it is a little bit of a different polymer clay. So I'm just going to flatten this down, probably add more of it. I don't mind if I've got some lower and higher areas. Yeah, sadly I fell out of that War Shadow. I fell away from Final Fantasy Online a long time ago, back when they were having those login issues. I just got so frustrated that I just quit, and I never went back. And now I've just got so many things I want to do that I don't like. I know I'd love the game. I love the Final Fantasy aesthetic, and I like their storytelling, and I love their monsters. But I know that it would be just too much of a time sink. I have books to write. Books to write and minis to paint. And it would totally, like, the only reason I play video games now is mostly to play with David. And he would not be into Final Fantasy. It is a slow ramp up with story heavy elements, and it's like the opposite of what he wants in a game. No fumes? Yeah, good to know, Roger. Thanks. But yeah, every once in a while I think about going back to Final Fantasy, and then I'm like, but you want to write books. And I'm like, you're right, I do want to write books. Maybe someday. Maybe after I'm retired, if they're still around. They'll have a new Final Fantasy by then. And I'll actually have some time. But, you know, I'll probably have found something else to fill my time at that point. I'm just one of those wackos who would rather create than ingest content. Like, it's why TV and movies, like, it has to be a really cool thing that totally appeals to me for me to take the time for a TV show or movie. Because most often I would always rather be creating something. It's just the way I am. Alright, so we're making some long worms here because we've got little spaces on the front, see that gap, and the back that we need to fill. So we are creating our worms. We're going to put our worms in there. I mean, you could do the same sort of stuff, I assume, with Sculpey and Fimo. I mean, like I said, I've used Super Sculpey Twisted Oma. Regular Sculpey I do not like for bases because it is very rubbery and it doesn't prime well. It takes the paint, but it, like, I don't know, it's just Not a great feeling. It doesn't feel right to me. It's not plastic enough. It's more rubber, and it does not appeal. I've got a lot of water down on this base, so I'm going to need to grab my Kleenex and take it off of there before I can put this fresh green on it. Gonna get that water out of that little place there. Yeah, Final Fantasy 20 at that point, right? Sometimes when life is just so stressful and I just can't create, those are the times that I get totally sucked into video games. I still would rather do a video game than a movie or a TV show, though. I'm more likely to read a book than to watch a TV show, no matter how good it is. Alright, so let's see here. I think I will go for a little bit of a ridge here. And a little bit of a cutoff, because I want to do these stones. So I want to make it a little flat. I'm not going to make it... I'm kind of keeping it rather stony right now. There are different levels. We have a little bit too much water back here too. I assume Paul Rubens played the big baddie in Buffy. But yeah, I think a lot of people make comments about that with Final Fantasy. It's not very final, is it? If you're always iterating new ones. And I'm not going to worry too much if I'm a little bit off as far as marrying up to some of these existing stones, especially if there's like an end, because they're irregular themselves and they're on different levels. So it's not totally necessary. Now I will probably need to skin a little bit over the top on these to blend some of them in. Oh, the new Final Fantasy Online is an MMO like World of Warcraft, Age of Marvel. If you like the stories and the aesthetic, then the Final Fantasy 14 is probably for you. Because it's an MMO style. It's not turn based. Yeah, I enjoyed it while I played it. Alright, I gotta just figure out what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna take some real thin pieces and try to integrate them. I don't want there to be an obvious break between the green and the existing base. So in some cases, like here where I'm getting a bit of a lip coming up, see that gap? I'm gonna actually put a flat piece of green over it if I can get it to stick and get it not to stick to my fingernail. Oh, bye green users! Stay cool! Alright, let's get this going on. Oh no, too much water. This is the great tragedy. There. When you're trying to stick these suckers down and get them to go, you need the water, but you don't want all the water. Alright, there we go. So I've gone over the edge there with my little flat bit here. To disguise it. I'm going to flatten it down with the flat part of my sculpting tool. Kind of blend it out. Oh, there's the edge. I found the edge. Okay, so I want that to be thicker there. Got to keep that up. Flat, 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 flat. And pull it real thin. And I'm pulling it out this way too. I'm flattening it, but I'm pulling it a little bit this way. I think everybody's got that. Everybody's got a number of video games they haven't finished. And some of them you go back to and some of them you don't. It's like books. Sometimes you just don't finish one. The dreaded DNF. Did not finish. Authors dread the DNF. Alright, so I've got that kind of blended in. Now I'm going to take my knife and kind of score along the lines of these existing stones. And notice I'm not necessarily pressing, I'm actually rolling the knife a little bit. So I've got those lines, like that. That's fair. So I've got those. You can see how we're pulling that off. On the back here. And go on to the other side. Do the same thing. So I've got a little bit more of an abrupt break here, so I think I need a little bit more green so that I can get more of an edge like I have over here. Yeah, Amazon, it's yep, it's expensive on Amazon. Twisted Oma. I ordered there anyway because I just wanted the convenience, but it is polymer clays are not cheap, but they're cheaper than if you were trying to do the same thing out of green. Ooh, dropping sharp things on the floor and onto my lap here. Hold on. But yeah, I mean, if it's not a necessary thing, don't order it, right? I haven't even tested it. I wouldn't order it unless you read up on it and were sure that it was gonna be better for you than like what your husband already has. Like, I haven't even tested this on stream yet. I mean, we know it's awesome for sculpting because CNOT uses it, but that's how I found out about it. But we haven't yet utilized it here, so I mean, don't necessarily run out and buy it if you don't need it, because it's not cheap. It's less expensive than some other alternatives. But it is only specifically useful for if you want to do a big custom display base. Like, there's definitely, you guys know this, there's all sorts of materials that are useful in miniatures, but only for very specific things. And these polymer clays are one of these. Like, used to be you could use them to do, to sculpt little bits and pieces for your bases, but now you would just 3D print those suckers. Because there's all sorts of boxes and bottles and braziers and other B words out there that you can just download a STL file and have your friend with a 3D printer print it if you don't own one. But yeah, I don't think I would have bought the cosplay if I hadn't had a project specifically in mind that I knew that it would probably be good for. Alright, I just want to get this up here so that I can smoosh it over the edge, just like we did on the other side. So starting to smoosh it over the edge there. But yeah, I wouldn't go out and blow a bunch of money, you know, especially because I know you guys just sort of like redid part of your house. I would wait until you have a specific project that you want, you know you want that sort of thing for. I probably wouldn't blow the money on it until then, especially not if he already has Fimo. I would experiment with the Fimo and see if it's something that you know, if he likes that, and if he gets into doing those sort of bases, then, or you do, then invest. But yeah, anything I talk about on this show isn't necessarily a run out and buy it right away. This is very much an experiment for me, because I haven't used it before, but I like what CNOC does with it, so I'm like, all right. And I liked the no fumes thing. Okay, other side. Silver tongue, I tend to do the base at the end. A lot of painters, David included, my husband, will do the base at the time they pick up the mini and are priming the mini. They'll do the base at the same time so they can paint the model on the base. For this show, I tend to just do the base at the end, and it honestly does tend to be that way for me for most models, unless it is an elaborate like display piece that I have in mind what I want to do. And the reason is just that, I mean, on this show, while I'm painting the figure, I'll sometimes get an idea of what I want the base to be. And I'm somebody who has to think a lot to come up with, like, you know, creative ideas for basing. And usually I don't want to sit there and think. I want to paint the model. So I'll think about the base while I'm painting. And that's just my type, the way that I work. Everybody, the way they work is going to be different. I'm a rarity because, like I said, most people will do the base at the same time, but I usually don't unless the model like arrives in my head with a color scheme and a base like in right there. I probably am not going to have a real idea of what the basing is going to be like until I'm through painting the figure. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. I would say that's true. Cosplay is a very high-end sculpting medium, and that's why it's more expensive. There are cheaper clays. And Quindy is dead on. I would say that you are 100% accurate there, Quindy. Yeah, but listen to what Quindy said, Twisted Oma. There are cheaper polymer clays that he could do to create like a big round or something if he wants to do it. Yep. So yeah. I think Fimo, if he got the harder Fimo, the professional, I think. I'm going to make a base for the Mouseling, Pendraig. I want to make a display base for the Mouseling. A graveyard base. I need to get online and order tombstones. Or tell David to print some. But I probably just need to get online and order them. So last I checked, Reaper did have a tombstone pack. I'll have to check to make sure that they still do it. If not, I'll have to get something from elsewhere or sculpt them myself. Yeah, so if I were you, Twisted Oma, honestly, Twisted Oma, depending, is the dragon metal or is the dragon resin? Because if the dragon is resin, especially, I would say do cork. Yeah, I would build it out with cork. Like, because cork is so cheap, that thick cork, and you could do layers of it, and then you could put putty over the top. Yeah, the Mouseling is bigger. I have some tombstones from a different company, and I may use them. I disagree, Roger. I disagree. You can sculpt the base, press the feet of the model onto that base to make a mark so you know where it goes, and just bake it. I'm betting it doesn't have a lot of shrinkage because Super Sculpey doesn't have a lot of shrinkage. And then you just pin. You could just pin it. I mean, I've worked with polymer clays with basing before pretty extensively. So you bake the base and then you pin the model onto it. Just as if cosplay was a plastic base. You're just pinning the model to it after the fact. Yeah. But if I were doing a base for a dragon, I would do a lot of it with cork. I would probably use a plastic card base, like a thick plastic card, build the cork forms on top of it. use some of the cheaper putties, like the air dry putties, like Aves or something, to actually probably Milliput. Probably Milliput, I would think, to really build in forms. Um, yeah, I mean, it depends also on his vision for the base Twisted Oma. Like, if he's wanting to do a bunch of treasure stuff, that can be a pain in the butt. Like, you're almost going to have to get a 3D print, like, of treasure piles or something at that point. But if he wants to build out something like a rocky, you know, like ravine or something like that, then yeah, I'm sure there's lots of tombstone options. I mean, I do have some from one of the the companies that came to ReaperCon. I have a bag of them, so I only need a couple. But I was going to look at Reapers too, because Reaper has some smaller ones last time I Oh, that's nice, Neurotic. Cool. Yeah, but it's all about like what he's trying to do. But if you want inexpensive, big basing and you want to build it out fast so that you can see the shapes and put the dragon on it and get an idea of how it's going to look, without like having to move big lumps of clay around, cork is where it's at. That thick cork, that 5/8 or 1/4 inch cork, you can stack it up so easily and cut and rip and tear it so fast. You can have a base mostly blocked out in the space of an afternoon easy. Yeah, aluminum foil as a underneath as an armature, right? Right, armature. Yep. Thanks, Roger. Thanks for that reminder. But yeah, so if I was doing a dragon base, I would be using cork. Cork with a combo of maybe even some of the plasters, honestly, depending on if I wanted air dry, because I have a bunch of other stuff. There's, if you get any like those model railroad books, Twisted Oma are actually really, really useful for this sort of thing, because they're building up big chunks of terrain for those for tunnels and stuff. Model railroading books can be a really good resource for things like dragon bases, because it'll tell you how to, you know, what materials. It'll give you suggestions for materials to use to get some of that look. So I'm going to go on the edges of these stones again, guys. I'm going to score right along where they are. I'm going to leave some of my artifacts. All right, now we're going to start. Yeah, there's the Discord link right there, Neurotic. Right, the Reaper Miniatures one right there. I think actually I'm going to have this crumbly off the front. Let's see. So I'm going to do another line here. I'm going to just work with these crumbling shapes that I already have. There. All right. I'm going to go in. Bye, Crowley. Have a good weekend. I'll be streaming tomorrow, I think, guys. Unless I need to, I might need the time. I might want to take the time for editing, but I usually enjoy it. I'll stream for at least an hour, I think, tomorrow. I usually enjoy a small break. I like to hang out with you guys online and paint something. So, and I think I don't know if we'll work on Orc, comic book Orc or the Anubis. We'll figure out what I need, what I feel like. If I don't have an opinion, I'll just work on Orc probably. I was trying to get this particular stone to read right here. This blob of green, I'm trying to work it in a little. I think I'm going to make this go down a little bit so I can press it out. No, I don't tend to do that, Pendrake. When I have a class model, Kirill's model is the exception, but I usually don't finish them. I don't finish them because I like to see the in progress part because it essentially reminds me, oh, that's how I did that technique. If I finish it out, I'm not going to have those half finished stages. And that means I'll have a harder time remembering how I did it. Does that make sense to you? That's actually kind of a key thing for me. Like, I take these classes and I do not finish out the model. The only time I finish out the model is if I have worked with the technique since and am confident that I remember how to do it. And this is the same thing with cons. I used to do the same thing. And so it's kind of a tip for all y'all. Like, if you take a class at ReaperCon and you have and you're working on a technique, leave part of it in stages and don't finish it. Keep it on your shelf so that you can go back to it and go, how did I get this effect? And then you're not only going to have like any notes that you took or a handout, but you're going to have your own work in progress showing you the steps. So that can be really valuable as a tool if you need if you really want to see an example. So I'm just kind of like making these little like bits of shale and cracked brick here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did really good work in Kirill's class, but after Kirill's class, I did a couple of models where I utilized the techniques that he showed us in class. And so since I utilized them, they stuck in my brain and I knew that I didn't need my reference anymore. So then I finished out that model. That's Mr. Grumpy. But it took me a while because I wanted to make sure that I had it before I obscured those traces. So I'm using a lot of knife here because I want these fine breaks. The other thing that if you look real close, you can see these little holes that he's put in there. Holes between those stones. So I can use the tip of my knife or a sculpting tool to bring some of that out as well. The green is still a little goopy at this point. So I think I'm going to grab a sculpting tool because the tip of my knife is just going to catch on stuff. But I do need to score the bricks over here. So, but yeah, dude is not like ever going to get finished. Like, I'm 100% sure that dude is dude. I might do a little more work on him here or there if I really feel like it, because I do show him a lot, so I might actually get his hair done and stuff. But I have pretty strong feelings about class models that way. Plus, honestly, most class models haven't been prepped to a great standard. So, like, it's not like it's been prepped to a very high standard anyway. There's probably still mold lines in places. And that's just because, you know, con organizers have other things to do, or seminar organizers. That being the case, it's not a piece that I would put a competition level paint job on anyway, unless Kirill did prep like crazy. He prepped the models personally for his class that he did at Reaper, so they were very good. So I felt good about finishing Mr. Grumpy, but a lot of them have issues here and there. Sometimes an organizer will contact the people who go to a class, a high-end class like this, and ask, pretty much say, hey, do you want me to mail you your model in advance so you can prep it? And that's a good option if you want a really nicely prepped model for the class. But I don't really usually care. I'm just there to absorb the techniques and move on with a different model. Because the other thing is, a lot of class models, I may not like the model. Yeah, it's just stuck. Yep, sketchbook. Yep. Yeah, exactly, Quindy. You just consider it finished. Yep. But yeah, for a lot of these class models, the instructor will pick a model that they really like, but often I don't like it very much. Like, I'm not, like, Lumberjack, he's a very good sculpt, but he's a Lumberjack. I'm like, meh. So, for me, I would much rather be painting an Anubis than a Lumberjack, right? Look at me. This is Anne we're talking about. So that's the other thing, is why I wouldn't finish that class model. But that's the minor thing. Like, the real thing is that it's a sketch and I keep it to remind me how to do those techniques. If I do that leather technique on a couple more models other than the mouse sling and I have good results with it, then, you know, maybe I won't need that as much. But there are other things on that model. Well, there were a lot of techniques that he used that I think are valuable. That's why I would recommend anybody take a Mark Maslin's class. Not only is he a great teacher, but I learned a lot. And a lot of those techniques are, once you get the hang of the texture techniques, anybody could do it. So I'm going to score this in, guys. Then I'm going to bring my texture stamp in. I'm going to use the one that Julie provided in her bag of stuff. And I'm going to press it into a lot of this stuff. I'm going to go back then and poke holes around and rough things up a bit. It depends on... I would not take a high-end class. Like, I would not take a class with Mark Maslin's or Sergio or Matt DiPietro or Kirill or, you know, any of the really big names. I would not. I wouldn't do that until you feel like you are an intermediate painter. And what I call an intermediate painter, Neuro, is if you are, usually where I draw the line is if you have pretty good brush control and you know how to thin your paint, and you have at least tried, like, if you know how to layer and glaze, then you're pretty good. So if you have decent brush control, you know how to thin your paint, you've tried layering and glazing, and you use them. You may not be perfect at them, but you know how to use them. Then you can start taking some of these classes. So there is no like time frame, like I've been painting a year, I've been painting 2 years. There's no... Everybody is different. Everyone is different. Some people won't get to the intermediate stage, especially if they're painting a lot of gaming models. They won't get there until they're maybe been painting for 5 or 6 years. Some people will paint for 6 months and be able to take an advanced class. So it really depends on where you are in your technique journey. But I would say you got to know how to thin your paint. You've got to be like at least acquainted with using thinner paint techniques and thicker paint techniques. Ah, with Luca. So not so much thin paint techniques, all thick. Do you know how to think about light? Do you use like zenith priming or anything like that if you tried it? To figure out where to put your highlights, or do you have trouble? Okay, yeah, you'll be fine. Luca's really good at lighting, and like if you understand basics about lighting, Luca will probably like up your game. And if you use a wet palette and you're used to using thicker paint, and you've tried some of the brands that he has, I think you'll be fine. Like, I haven't seen your work, Neuro, so, but don't intimidate yourself too much. Okay, so best mindset. Here's the best mindset, Neurotic, okay? Best mindset. You want to go into the class as if you know nothing. You want to go into the class as if you are a total newbie. So, like, blank out your expectations, blank out assuming you know how to do anything, and then just follow Luca when you're in the class, and keep your mind very open. So if he says, oh, do it this way, don't like stop and think, oh, but that's not the way I do it, or I have not liked doing that in the past. Don't do any of that. Wipe it out of your brain and just do it the way that Luca tells you with the tools that he tells you. And then you will get far more out of any class you take going into it as if you are a beginner instead of worrying about the things you know already or don't know. Yes, tell Quindy, and tell him, threaten him with Quindy if he's naughty to you. Right, but maybe that's not your goal, right, Shadow Raven? So it sounds like Neuro does want to do that. But the best thing I did when I went into that class with Mark Maslin's Neuro is I went into it with a very open mind, assuming that I did not know anything and that I was just going to do exactly what Mark told me to do in the way that he told me. And at that point, all you need is brush control and a basic understanding of lighting. And you can follow a good instructor just straight through the class. And because you're like just throwing your preconceptions your existing ideas, kind of throwing them out. You can learn better when it's something that's totally new to you or a new way. You can give it a chance, right? And that's important because as we learn more as painters, we do get set in our ways. We do get ideas about, this is the way I like to do it, not that way. But if you can just take all that and throw it out for a day of class or 2 days or however long the seminar is, you will get so much more out of it and you'll enjoy yourself a lot more. Pretend you're a kid and this is your first art class and just play. It's Zen. It's beginner's mind is what the concept is called. But it's so true. Because if you go in, I did this because I had this experience with my class with Jeremy Bonnement. I went into it being Anne Forster. And I learned almost nothing. And then as I went on in these classes, I realized that if I just put aside the things that I knew and tried to do things the way the instructor was doing, I learned a lot more. I learned a lot more from Kirill's class than I learned from Sergio's. Sergio's class was very hard for me because it was a real challenge because he paints totally different than I do, 100% differently than I do, Sergio does. And so it was a hard class for me, but I learned a lot and I'm still, like I took lots of notes from that class and every once in a while I go back and I read them and I always learn something new. I always learn something new I've forgotten. So take notes everybody. Not only paint your class model, but also take notes. But yeah, so it's so important. It's just so important to open your mind. Don't worry about what you don't know. If you have a question, ask it. Don't overthink it though. This is the hard thing. This is the other thing that painters do all the time is they overthink. I think I'm going to do a wider flagstone back here because it seems to be going that way. But yeah, so don't worry about what you don't know. Don't overthink it. Just ask a question to make sure you're doing it right. I do this in my CrossFit class, and it's so good. Because I walked into that not having been in a gym since high school, really. Maybe early college. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go in, and if I have a pertinent question, I'm going to ask, but I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to say, is this about right? Am I doing this movement right? Should I do, instead of saying, should I do this, should I do that, should I do that, it's like, how is my form on this movement? Is my paint the right consistency? A lot of us are worried about minutia when really it's just like, is my paint thick enough? Or is my paint thin enough? Or do I have too much paint on my brush? Am I not doing what the instructor is doing, but trying to get my own style? My own style is intruding, right? That can happen. So back here I'm getting a little rougher. I think Sergio and Luca have some similarities in their styles, but mostly because when I look at Spanish painters in general, I see certain similarities, but Sergio's style, the way that he applies the paint, very different from the way that I tend to do things. And so it was a very difficult class for me. I struggled very much to stick to my beginner mind and to do things the way he wanted them to do, even though there were things that didn't play to my strengths. And in the end, I walked away with with not as many mechanical techniques, but a lot of conceptual techniques. A lot of things about light and painting light. The way that Sergio does it. So you'll get different things from each class, and you may not get the thing you expect. All right, let's get this. Oh, I need to score this. I want to score this one. I want to score that one. There. Okay, so I've got some pretty good texture going on here, and that looks like a big crack almost. I think I'm going to capitalize on that. The big difference, what, between my style and Sergio's? Yeah, I'm gonna do a big crack here. Why not? Sergio used a much larger brush with much thicker paint and a much stronger lighting. But it was mostly, I just remember like trying to figure out the lighting, the way he was doing it, and the way that he lights, the way that he chooses his lighting is he's coming at it from a slightly, like, two directions at once almost. I don't know, from the front and back. It was, I just remember struggling with, like, a forearm and really, really trying to think about where the light is coming from here and where is the logical place to highlight this. And I just got so frustrated, I was like, I hate it. And I was just, that was like, the interior of me just was like, yuck, I hate this, right? I struggled a lot during that class. That was when I made my epiphany, though. That was when I realized through experimentation that the bigger, wider brushes work better for thicker paint, which is, you know, I wasn't a thick paint user prior to that. And the thinner brushes are what you want for thinner paint with less of a belly. And why? Like, that was that class that let me break that down. Because it was such an alien painting technique. And I made myself, because I am the kind of person who looks at a problem and tries to figure out why. So I'm like, why is this hard for me? Why is it so weird? And so I figured that out. So that class was worth it, just for that, just for me understanding now that when I'm working with thicker paint, I want to work with a brush with a bigger belly. That's usually a larger brush. And the opposite for thin paint, I want the thinnest belly for really thin paint. So for texture effects, for example, underpainting. Yeah, yep. Yes. Yeah, that's funny. That's great, Quindy. That's great. Yep. Too small of a brush. Yeah. Yeah, you could tell. You can tell. That's really good. See, Luca, well, don't talk too nice about him because he might be watching. You never know. But yes, Luca's good. Luca's good. I respect people who can teach. Like, I think it's way too much of a just a total cop out and total crap to like say, oh, those who can't teach. It's like so demeaning teaching and the value of a good teacher. It's like, you can't underestimate that. You can't understate it. I may not be out there like winning Slayer swords all over the place. I may never have won a crystal brush, but by God, I can teach. And, you know, you need people who can teach in the hobby every bit as much as you need those flashy people who go out and win endless numbers of awards. There are a lot of people who are really super amazing award-winning painters who cannot teach. And when that happens, then you need somebody to be able to break down what that painter does and how. So respect to teachers, man. Oh, we can talk about nicedom, yes. Sergio Sergio can use Reaper paints like he did for our class, but very thick on the wet palette. But if you've watched me at all, Neuro, you know that I use very thin paint all the time. All the time. All right, so I put a couple cracks in there. Now let's get some texture on those stones. Where's my lovely stamp that Julie made for me? She's not even here for me to say thank you. We're going to use this. Thanks, Anara. I try to, because you know what? It's just little steps. It's just little steps. Sure, maybe you can't get, much from a paint class right now, but just little steps. Just take little steps. It's that thing. It's like talking about the bar, right? If you lower the bar, you lower the resistance. And you need to lower the resistance, not down to 0, but you need to lower it enough so that that bar is easy for you to step over. And then you can take that step, and then the next time you look at that bar, it's easy. And you go and you raise it a notch. And that's how you improve. Okay, so you can see that cool little texture that's putting in there? Yeah. Oh, Totoro is on. Okay. Hello, Totoro. But yeah, my thing has always been, this is why I like to work with beginner and intermediate painters. Because it's not as hard as they think it is. And I like to show them that, and I like to see how happy they are when things connect and they light up, right? And they realize that they can do it. And the more I work on my own self-improvement journey, the more tools I have to help people work on theirs. So things like lowering the threshold, lowering the bar until you can step over it easily, and then raising it just a little so that it's still easy, and then just a little bit more. Like, that's something I got from writing. And it's worked for me. Like, it's like, sometimes I look at my work, like what I have to do, and my day seems overwhelming. And it's like, okay, I need to back off. And instead of looking at, all that I have left to do, I need to just like make it the easiest I can to take the next step. There we go. So now we've got some nice texture coming in. Aw, thanks everybody. Thanks for all the votes. The upvotes and love. We love the and love. All right, so got some irregular. What I need now is I need notches at the corners of some of these stones and broken areas. I need to separate some of these stones a little bit more. Probably the way I want to do that, I think I need a pokey tool. I need tiny spoon. Maybe I need tiny spoon. I try not to use tiny spoon a lot because, like, even though tiny spoon is easy to make, a lot of you guys don't have a tiny spoon. But some days, tiny spoon is just the tool of choice. And there's nothing to be had for it except to use tiny spoon. Right, Kiki? It's a tiny spoon day. Tiny spoon. Because tiny spoon is just a good tool to go in here and make these little gaps with. Little gaps, little gaps. And the putty is stiff enough that now I can make these little gaps a little easier. Also want to make some of the lines that we put down between these stones, some of them need to now be a little bit wider than others. So now we're going to kind of tackle each of these little pieces and just make them a little less regular. So I'm just trying to introduce some of these little holes and breaks so that it's even more irregular. A tine is, it'd have to be a very, very, very small plastic fork pen rake. Most plastic fork tines won't get this sharp. And then remember, part of what you need is something that's flat. I mean, it's easy as heck to make these. You just get a brass rod and you get a hammer and you just hammer the end. A ball peen hammer is best, but you know what? You could probably just hammer it flat and bend it and you would have pretty much a tiny spoon. So it's not like it's hard to make tiny spoon. And then you know, like, you've got what you need. I could use the tip of my knife maybe, but now that the putty is set up a little bit better, press this one down a little bit more and get it out of the way. And really I just want to rough these stones up and make them irregular. I also want to make them not as regular this way, so I want to break them a little bit, not just at the corners but along the sides to make them more irregular while still keeping them mostly straight. But yeah, I look forward to your class. Try not to worry. Like, I know that's kind of like, it's hard, right? And you're probably still going to worry right up to the point where you walk in. But you know what? Just be nice and cheerful and honest and try your best and listen to what Luca is telling you to do and do it. And try not to change what he's telling you to do in line with what you would tend to do. Which is a very challenging thing, actually. Not like bad challenging, but like it stretches you a little. And every once in a while, if I feel like I've lost a little bit of texture, I'm going to pop in with my texture stamp and do it. As the putty sets up, it's going to be harder to get the texture. You're going to have to press harder. Yes, exactly, Neurotic. And what's going to happen if you do that is that then afterwards, Neuro, you will go home, and when you practice, you will naturally take his technique and adapt it to your style. But you need to get his technique first. So that's why you open your mind and you absorb his technique, like all of it. And then when you go next, maybe you pick a model to paint specifically after the class. I've been known to do this. So after a class, I'll choose a model that I specifically want to practice those techniques on that I learned in that class. And I will try to execute, like my sacrifice bust was I was trying to do some of the textures that Kirill had showed us in class, and so I was trying to get, and Soldier, I was doing some of Kirill's techniques on the metals on there. So after you're done with class, that's the time to go home and look at that technique and then figure out, okay, what parts of this could work really well with my own style, right? Because you have plenty of time to do that afterwards. But when you're in the class, you don't want to waste time cluttering things up with your style. You already know your style. Instead, you want to get as much of that painter's style and process as you can. And later, you can sort it all out. There we go. Don't chop his head off, no. Because that's the real value in these classes. When you take a class with somebody who's got such a distinct style as Sergio or Alfonso or Luca, the great power, the great thing that you can take from that is learning, the elements of their style and how they put things together. So that's the thing to aim for, right? When you take a class from them. And sometimes it's not so much their style as specific techniques. Like when I took the Mark Masklin's class, I knew he was really good at certain unusual textures. And so I went in wanting to, I knew how I would go at those textures, but I thought he would have a different take on it, and he had a very different take on it. So I walked out of there having learned some things that I did not know, which is always useful when you've been painting as long as I have. But also understanding those techniques and going, okay, how would I adapt to this if I was going to adapt this to my own style? Or am I just going to actually start doing things like him when I paint a model like that, right? So the funny thing is that before the class, I told David what I was going to do, that I was going in with that mindset. And he's like, oh, that's a really good idea. And so he did the same thing. And he got a lot out of that class. He's painting, Mark just put out a new model. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Maybe I'll go get it. Hold on. 1 second. He bought me one too. I just haven't started mine. Maybe I should show you David's. I always feel kind of sneaky when I do that. 1 second. Okay, are you all ready to have your minds freaking blown? Because, okay, so Mark, first I'll show you just up here. So the new model, because he was sick of the lumberjack, so he did this girl who's at a concert, and she's in a jacket, and she got a t-shirt on, and she's got a bottle of beer or soda or whatever in her hand, right? And she's got her arm up in the thing. So, but now, let me show you the close-up version. Let's see here. Gotta get back. Light's a little intense here. This is in progress, by the way, so it's not done. I don't know. He hasn't decided yet, Valandar. Yeah, this is all here. But the t-shirt he's been spending the most time on. Some of you who are a fan, it's not Britney Spears. What are some of the other big female? I forget who this is. Big female superstar, rock. What's her name? No, not Billy. That is not a decal. Ah, crap. I can't remember. It's one of the other big female rock superstars right now. Not Beyonce. I can't remember. He has a specific name for her, and I can't remember. Taylor. Yes. Thank you. Taylor Swift. So this is an actual Taylor Swift concert t-shirt. And he's duplicating it. But yeah. Yeah, this is his Swifty. Yes, thank you, Inara. This is his Swifty. So yeah. So he's got a lot of light. My camera is over accentuating the light a little bit, I think. But he is painting her with a really strong light source. So yeah. So this is the new Mark Masklins Mini that he's going to be using in class from now on. But yeah, you can see how he starts with a really golden skin tone. And then he's bringing a lot of red tones in here on the face and stuff. So anyway, that's the new model for Mark Masklins, and it's also David's work in progress. Because the t-shirt's ridiculous. He's never done, he hates freehand, by the way. Just in case you guys wondered, Papa, did you seriously just put your ball strap toy on my seat as I sat down? She's ridiculous. Do you want to show the stream your ball strap? Yeah, your favorite toy? Well, you got to get over here first, and then you got to get up here. Can you get up here? Oh, oh. What? Did something hit your butt? You're silly. Baba. No, Baba. Hold on, guys. She's got something. There we go. She's being a turkey, so I'm going to ignore her. But yes, so David hates freehand. Absolutely hates it. Thinks he's not good at it, or thought. Now he knows different. But he was like, freehand was never his free card. He just worked at it. Kiki, you are a turkey. You are a turkey. It's not time yet, Kiki. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, Kiki was right. I was wrong. Yeah, Taylor Swift has good people as her fan base, I think. But there's my glasses. All right, so we are at the end of the stream, but yeah, Dog Clock is correct today. She is sometimes wrong, but not today. I think I've done enough. If I haven't done enough, I can go back to this after it's cured, and I can cut parts of it if I want to. But yeah, so we've done texture, we've got all our bricks going on. We won't know how it looks next to what we've got until we really start to paint it. Some of these are a little bit goopy, and I wish I could I need to flatten them. I need a piece of card, Kiki. Okay, I'm just gonna press down. Sometimes if you need to flatten things out, taking a piece of card and flattening them down, actually pressing them down works. And with green, it can get a little poofy. So it's a good idea. But I think we'll run with that. Like I said, I can always go back and doctor it a little bit. Yeah, you don't want to watch the Diablo Fortress stream. This is true. Yes, I'm going to be streaming for about an hour, I think. Turgeon, I need to do a lot of editing, but I also like to take a break and just hang out and paint with you guys. So I will probably be doing a combo of that. So, Cathy, get back on your plinth. There. We'll let Cathy set up. Okay. Yeah, that's fair, Turgeon. That's a bummer. But yeah, I will be on Painting Big tomorrow, and hopefully, I'm hoping by Sunday I finish the book edits. That's my goal. Be done a day early. Cool. It's usually 3:30 USA Central Time, 3:30 p.m. Because it's 1:30 out where I am, out here on the West. So 3:30 Central Time, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 out here in Cali. Yes, and I'll be working on something. Maybe I'll work on orc. We've been working on orc and making progress, so I mean, it makes sense to keep working on comic book orc. Now that I've got like all this stuff pretty set, and that's okay, so I really need to figure out what I'm doing back here. And then we can start putting some colors down. We might start putting some colors down already, to be honest. I'm not sure. Maybe. Haven't decided. But yes, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming in. Kiki is like, hey. Reaperland should be still on, Quindy says, although as usual, no guarantees. Oh boy, big yawn. I need more caffeine. Orf, orf, orf. Yep. Yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely weekend as well. I'm gonna be working hard, Kiki, on my book, right? Right? Yeah, I am. Oh, I'm going to the wild bird store because those birds are piggies, and I need to get more seed. They ate all my seed, Kiki. They ate it all. Yes, good girl. All right. Yes, no problem. Enjoy the class, Neuro. I know it's for 2 weeks till you have it, so. But yes, I hope you enjoy. Classes are fun. Yeah, no problem, no problem. No problem, everybody. You know I love you all. I really appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out on the stream with us. All right, Kiki says, walk time. I'll see some of you tomorrow, all right? See you then. Bye-bye.